Kenya's biggest conversation this morning, and our guest is here today. It was interesting because we said you are known by your AKA as opposed to your name. Usually we say Charles Timothy Muga, aka CT Muga. You're known by your AKA, but here you are this morning, and I'm very happy to have you in the room. Member of Parliament for Embakasi East, BABU OWINO. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well.
Thank you so much.
Good to see you.
Happy to be here by the grace of the Lord.
Amina. Karibu sana.
Asante.
We want to welcome you properly before we get into today's conversation.
Yes.
CT has gone to Mauritius and he's brought the proverbs back from Mauritius for this week. And then you'll tell us what it means to you and how you interpret that.
Okay. A hen cannot lay eggs and hatch them all on the same day.
A hen
cannot lay eggs and hatch them all on the same day.
Mm-hmm. You want me to respond to that?
Of course. Yes. What does it mean to you? How would you interpret that proverb?
That a hen cannot deliver eggs on the same day and hatch them on the same day. It means that that everything must take time. There has to be a procedure for things, a process. It's just as equal as a child cannot be born on the same day and the child starts running. So
except it's a horse, but okay. Carry on.
Yeah, so I think it's just about the process, just to allow the process to take its course and patience. So to me, it's about time.
It's about time.
Yes.
Okay. Babu, there's certain things that are happening in the country at the moment. High cost of living, it has been an issue for the longest time. And we brought this to the House of Parliament where you're seated. The finance bill, of course, again, being heavily debated. Last year was a historic year because there were, everybody was engaged. And now this year, I argue that people are now engaging at a more informed position than where they were last year. So there are very many things where you have a citizenry that is starting to get a lot more active because they're informed. And we've brought it to the House of Parliament whereby people are saying, where has Parliament been? Where have the members of Parliament been who are supposed to be representing people when these decisions are being made? Right now, a critical decision is being made in the House of Parliament. Deliberations are going on about whether a finance bill will pass or not. And whereas it is in the House of Parliament, the question is still being asked, where are the members of Parliament? Where are you?
In Parliament, there are in the House there are two sides. There is the opposition and there is the government. Then there are some members of the opposition that crossed over to the government because of probably being bought and probably seeing grass being greener on the other side. As opposition, under the doctrine of separation of powers, checks and balances that was opined by a great man called Charles Louis, the second at Baron de Montesquieu in the 17th century. He came up with that idea to keep checks and balances to the government. And that is what we in opposition, we decided to keep checks and balances. We can't say that all of us are doing that job. Some of us have been bought, but the few who are there, we will spread the word. And the Bible says that in the beginning there was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God. So we will just start kidogo kidogo, as just the way you say that a hen. But it is time for now. It is time that we need to stand up for our people. The reason why we were elected as members of Parliament is to work for our people, is to ensure that we keep the government in check so that they can deliver the promises that they gave unto Kenyans. But not all hope is lost. Today we are going to vote. BABU OWINO is going to vote against the finance bill. He's going to vote no. Why? Because the finance bill is oppressive. It doesn't matter if all the other members of Parliament vote for it. But for me as BABU OWINO, I will vote against it because it is oppressive. Increasing taxes to Kenyans means that you're increasing the cost of living, means that you're taking jobs away from them, means that our children will not go to school, means that the country is going to be destroyed and our future is going to be destroyed. And as BABU, I will stand by that. So I urge fellow members of parliament not to go the way of listening only to their principles, but to break that yoke, but to break that chain and ensure that they make the right decision, because the first bosses that we have are the Kenyan citizens. Those are the people who elected us to represent them, not to misrepresent them. Yes.
Is there an understanding across board of this thing that you're saying in Parliament? I mean, we'll bring it to you, whereby we see the things that are happening in the country over the last couple of days, and, you know, we have a younger population now who is actually saying the same thing that you're saying right now, that we will not take an oppressive tax regime, that our thoughts must be taken into consideration. Is this the same thinking across board, across the members who are supposed to be representing these people who are protesting on the streets?
You know, these people are represented by members of parliament. Every person comes from a constituency, and therefore they have a member of parliament. Then members of parliament are to decide which side they want. Do they want the oppressive side, or do they want the side that is with the people? People are hurting. People are not coming out on the streets just because they love being on the streets. People are coming out on the streets because they are hurting, because they can't get fees for their children, because these Gen Zs who are just out the other day, most of these people are in universities. If you look at the new funding model for the universities, varsity fees was increased. The least course is costing around 300,000. That is a social science course. 300,000 times 4, 1.2 million. Then you expect a mama mboga who gets 100 shillings per day, a boda rider who makes only 100 to 200 shillings per day, to finance, to get this school, to get 1.2 million to take a child to school for 4 years. It means that this child will finish high school, will pass exams, but the life will end there. So it means a lot for Kenyans to come out and to talk about it. And the good news is that every electioneering cycle, Kenyans have an opportunity to go and elect, to go and correct the mistake that they made. So for me, I think members of parliament, this still goes back to you. Today is a decisive moment. A moment where you decide to choose the oppressors, the devil, or a moment where you decide to be on the side of the Almighty God. Because the voice of the people is the voice of God. Vox populi, vox Dei. People have spoken. Open your ears, open your eyes, listen to the people, see your people. They are suffering. You might not be suffering, but remember that the clothes that you wear are bought by these taxes.
Have you always been on this move? Because now it's what is looking, it's, you know, being called a movement already, you know, people coming out and speaking in a manner in which has not happened before. Have you always been part of the movement, or does it seem like something that you're joining now as BABU OWINO?
You know, you didn't know BABU OWINO today. Neither did you know him yesterday. BABU OWINO has always been known as a person who fights for the oppressed, because I believe that in the end, God will punish both the oppressor and the oppressed equally. The oppressor shall be punished for oppression. The oppressed shall be punished for accepting oppression. Therefore, BABU OWINO's school of thought comes from the idea that way back in the university, when I was a student leader, having led for 4 terms, the reason why they kept on re-electing me is because of fighting for the rights of the students, and to a larger extent, the rights for their parents. If university fee was increased, it was affecting the students and affecting their parents and affecting the whole country. If help delayed, a student could not go to class. Why? Because you don't have money for even accommodation, for food, for books, for exams, for class. And therefore, BABU OWINO has always been known as a champion of human rights. And that is where I stick to, because of where I came from. Where I came from does not allow me to oppress people. Where I came from does not allow me to let that mama mboga not have her daily bread. Where I come from, having lacked school fees, if you tell me that your child lacks fee, I know what it is to lack fee. If you tell me that you don't have food, I know what it is to go without food, because at some point I went without food. If a youth tells me that they've been arbitrarily arrested, I know what it is to sleep in a cell. So I know when I see a youth, I see myself. When I see a youth, I remember where I came from. When I see a mother, I remember my mother who was selling changa to bring me up. When I see a father going from Mjengo, I remember my father who was also struggling to go to Mjengo, who only left us with a bicycle. So I know what it is for a common mwananchi on the ground. So BABU is not about today. So this movement is a movement that it started long ago. Most of the Gen Zs who are here right now used to see us. We were demonstrating. I'm a millennial. There is no big age difference. We can't be within the same age bracket, age sets, not age mates, age sets, right? So we believe in the same ideology, and I would urge them, we proceed, because it is only you and me, you Gen Z and BABU as a millennial, that we can fight together to liberate this nation. We only have the chains to lose, nothing else to lose.
Hey, my goodness. I'm listening to Comrade here.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, sometimes opportunities are missed simply because someone wasn't tuned in to what was happening around them. We have an opportunity here. Why am I thinking of this? My mind goes back to 2002, when the Time magazine stated that the most optimistic citizens on the planet at that time were Kenyans. Now, why do I talk about missed opportunity? The ODM leader, Raila Odinga, had worked with President Kibaki, and the understanding was that he would be given a position as Prime Minister. President Kibaki and his friends and his cohort decided to go back on their word. An opportunity that had presented itself in a way that very few things had in this country was missed at that point in time. And look at where it has taken us. Look at the years we have spent trying to regain that moment again. And I'm saying the moment has come. You know why I say that? Because if you look at the age of the people we're talking about, some of them were born around that same time. Some had been born around that time, but they were children. Now it's taken that generation to come up and say, you know something, perhaps we need to do something and carry this torch and give it another impetus. Now, the moment is because the percentage of citizens in this country under the age of 35 is 80%. That's a huge demographic. Huge. There are details about those who have registered, those who haven't registered. But more importantly, there's something that I have seen. The ability to use the tool of the age. This is the information age. It's called social media. And I'm looking at the power that social media has in getting people together, sending messages, organizing. No big rally, but the rally was had on social media. The consents were given on social media. The understanding was given on social media. Now, it's building. Why I'm saying it's building? Because I'm reading and I'm looking. Tomorrow, other parts of the country will join. Yesterday, Mombasa joined. This is not a moment that anyone who is in political leadership should ignore. Because you ignore it, it'll sweep you aside completely. By the time you have a situation where you read on the posts, on your social media platforms, security officer has been told, we know you. We know who you are. We know where you live. We know where your children go to school. We know you. More importantly, members of parliament, we also know you.
Is that the question that's being asked?
Yes, we know you. We know who you are. And we're looking and waiting to see what you're going to do. You know why? We've also figured out how to recall you.
Yeah.
Does it come to your doorstep in that way? Because now this is it, that the thing that has been asked or the thing that is expected, and I'm looking specifically at members of parliament because here it is where that decision is supposed to be made and you continue to debate and vote today. Does it come to your doorstep when you realize that now there is an outward expression and very clear that folks are saying no more, not business as usual, and that's for BABU OWINO. That is for anybody else who is in parliament to say, no, guys, we're not going to take this anymore. How does that resonate with you?
You know, Wananchi are our bosses. These are the people who elected us. We live because they are. They are the people who need these services, and they should be given services. They should never beg for it. We should work for them, and they should never say thank you, and they should always ask for more, because they gave us the responsibility to work for them. And having given us that responsibility, it is our inherent and inalienable duty to ensure that we deliver that which we promised them. But people right now are hopeless. Why? Because they elect leaders. Leaders do nothing. I want to agree with the people that in the house, the floor, the parliament, people are compromised. People are cheap. They are not visionary. They are missionary. They have a mission to take money, a mission to destroy the lives of Kenyans, a mission to vote for the president and not against the president, and not for the people.
What makes you say that? And I'm asking that question like this because if I see an apple on a tree, then I know it is an apple tree.
Yes.
Now you're saying these guys are missionary in the sense that they want to follow the way. So what makes you say that?
If you had the debate yesterday and the mood, it was clear the house was divided. You could see the Azimio members of parliament against the bill, or debating against the bill. You could see the Kenya Kwanza members of parliament debating for the bill. You heard one member of parliament saying clearly that he will vote where the boss wants. And several of them were saying that. Even the female members of parliament, they said that, you know what, we are voting for our boss. And their boss is the executive, is Ruto. That is why I'm making I'm talking about, I'm making that decision.
They were actually using the word boss or leader.
They were talking about their leader.
Which means they've missed the point completely. That is not their boss.
And that is why I'm saying they are missionary leaders. We want visionary leaders. Vision with a vision to transform the world, a vision to transform Kenya, a vision to give jobs, a vision to represent and not to misrepresent facts, a vision to ensure that you and I live in a conducive or an enabling environment. And I do agree with Wananchi even when they issue, let me call it the threats. They are justified. They should do it more. Even if BABU OWINO is not working, you have a right to tell me, because you elected me to work for you, for the people of Embakasi's constituency, for Kenyans. If you see BABU is not doing something right, please let me know. I'm a work in progress.
Do you think the members of parliament should be recalled?
I think so. Those who are not working, it is in the constitution. There's a constitutional right for the people that they can follow a proper laid down strategy to recall members of parliament. And it can happen. Let it happen so that they can learn. For those who are not working, let them be recalled. If you can't recall them now, recall them at the ballot in 2027. But either way, let them be recalled for those who are not working.
The finance bill and its debate just gives an eye into then other things that would be happening, within the National Assembly. That it is not just this, that it's other issues as well. So it just means that there's a culmination of all of that. That really then, what else happens in Parliament that should not be happening? Or what else happens in Parliament, what doesn't happen that should be happening? So this gives us, because now people can see how it directly affects them. But then I'm worried about the other things, small things, big things, debt ceiling that is passed, structures that are put in place, things that are passed. If truly, BABU OWINO, like you say, that people are beholden to who their party leader is or who the executive is or whatever the case may be, if that is the case, then really things are really bad, are they not? Because if those are the decisions that are made in Parliament, if that is how oversight, if that is how representation, if that is how legislation is being made in this country along those lines, then I think that there's a spot of trouble that Kenya is in currently.
I want to tell you that we have a big problem if you talk about the issue of the debt ceiling in the first place, the debt that we have in Kenya is over 10 trillion. Domestic debt being around 48%, with foreign debt being around 52%. We don't have a problem with domestic debt. Why? Because that is money that is circulating within our country. But we have a problem with the foreign debts. Number one, to borrow. There's no problem in borrowing, but you borrow for what? If you borrow for recurrent expenditure, that is wrong. If you borrow to steal for corruption, that is wrong. If you borrow for patrimonialism, to please the keys to power, to please those who are around you, that is wrong. There was a great man called Franco Modigliani, an Italian-American economist, who came up with the theories of consumption. And he said clearly, under the theories of consumption, he came up with a theory called life cycle hypothesis, that you can enjoy what you ought to have enjoyed later on in life. You can take a loan and enjoy it now, and as long as you repay for it. Any debt that is a debt for corruption, a debt for recurrent expenditure, a debt for patrimonialism is called unproductive debt. It is not debt that is helping. But any debt that is for development is good debt. But Kenya, we borrowed and we stole. We borrowed to steal. When the moment this money was stolen by the government, there is no money for development. Therefore, we are left to repay this loan. So that is a shame. Number two, the central bank rates. In terms of borrowing, the loans, we are still there. In domestic borrowing, the commercial banks go to CBK to borrow. The rates has hit a high 13%, almost the highest in Africa. What does this mean? Two things will happen. The commercial banks will also lend to the consumers, to people on the ground, to people who want to start up their industries or to boost their businesses. What will mean is that the interest rates for borrowing will go high. The moment it goes up, it means that either that person will close the industry because they will not have an opportunity to take that loan or repay it at a higher rate. Right. Or number two, the moment that person borrows at a higher interest rate, then what will happen is that the goods that are manufactured in that industry will automatically go up. You will increase the value, which will increase the high cost of living because the burden of cost will move to the common mwananchi. So what does that tell you? That even the central bank rates that are raised, that are high, are going to raise the cost of living. So when it comes to issues of parliament and the decisions that we make in parliament, when we look at this finance bill, which is now the elephant in the room, this finance bill, the taxes that have been imposed. Yesterday I had Honorable Kimani Chungwa stating clearly, together with Kimani Kuria, that you know what? That we've only imposed taxes on imports. Right? The best way, and I saw Mexico dealing with this challenge, it is called absorption, foreign absorption. When Mexico realized that Americans were investing so much in Mexico, they decided to raise taxes for the American companies so that they boost the local companies. It worked perfectly well because they were ready. Now come back to Kenya. You raise taxes for imports, which is very good, but you are not ready because Kenya depends on 80% of imported goods. 80%.
Net importer, yes.
Okay? Then with that, in the manufacturing industry, you are not ready. In the agriculture, which is a primary sector, you are not ready. In the service industry, you are not ready. Service industry contributes 65% to the economy. Then the primary sector, which is agriculture, contributes 19%. Then you go to manufacturing, which are industries. Manufacturing, construction contributes 16%. So if we are not ready with the industries in Kenya to provide jobs and to manufacture goods, and we are not ready with our agriculture to produce enough so that the 55 million Kenyans can consume, it means that Kenyans will overutilize what is available. Then the next option available is that the demand will shift and go to the imported goods. They will find those imported goods at higher costs, right? Which will further raise the cost of living. So what he was trying to say is that, he's trying to say that we are boosting local industries. You cannot boost the local industries if it is not sufficient to provide for all. Boost them Yes, but build more industries. The moment you build more industries, people will get more jobs. You will spur up the economy. But you cannot purport to increase the imports, money for the imports, and then you want to say blanketly, as if people don't understand economics, blanketly, that, you know what, we are killing those people so that we promote local industry. The cost of living is going to even triple. And let me, as I finish on that point, when it comes to issues of imports, money leaks to other economies. The money that we are going to make, we are going to pay it into other economies, which is called foreign absorption. That needs to be cured. What we need to spur up is domestic absorption, where we manufacture more, we produce more, let money circulate into the system.
So, but are you trying to tell, I mean, look, it wouldn't take a genius to understand what you're saying. And it is very clear that that's just how economies, progressive, developed economy, that is how it runs. It's clear. So are you trying to tell me that there's no understanding? Because it would seem as though it's in the House of Parliament where this understanding is not taking place.
You know, there is no understanding because of the people advising the president. Because they should advise him right. And you know, you can't advise our president. In fact, our president is the one who advises his advisors on how to advise him. Okay, so what is happening in Bunge, which also has parliamentarians who are also advising the president, is that they've put a blind eye. The other day we were treated to a PR exercise in State House, right, where all these issues were captured during public participation, where during that process people expressed their views, but they didn't want to listen. Then they take the bill, they take it to State House, they amend it in State House instead of the bill being amended in Parliament, right? So that tells you that Parliament is deeply captured. Parliament is not independent. It is dependent on the executive, right? And then there's a strategy called decoy strategy or maneuver strategy that the state was using. The maneuver strategy states that bring all the bigger challenges that we will reject later on, bring them to Kenyans, and at the same time, bring the one that you want to pass, chini ya maji, iweke somewhere else. Then tell Kenyans that, you know, bread will increase, pampers will increase, sanitary towels will increase, 2.5% tax on motor vehicles. You cause chaos all of a sudden and become so chaotic. Then you solve that same problem by saying, you know what, we've had you, we've dropped them. The problem is not that alone. The problem is the whole bill. They shall have passed theirs, and the inclusion of that is the tax imposed on the imported goods, which is going to be a bigger challenge for Kenyans. So there's a lot happening, and I just wish that the president would open his eyes, because he's at the helm of the seat. He's the person who is the head of the executive and very responsible, and controls Parliament directly. And therefore, the parliamentarians who are in fear, those people, I want to tell you, they fear Ruto.
What is going to happen today if those things are happening? Because essentially, constitutionally, it is an independent body, Parliament, supposedly. But what you've told us now is that makes decisions at the behest of the president, sings the tune, where there is the executive, which should be operating in its independency, right? There's the legislature, and then, of course, there's the judiciary. Questions of the integrity of the independence of these bodies have come up regularly. Now, by your own admission, and the admission of many over time, has been that this just does not exist. So, what hope are Kenyans supposed to have today, just today, the 20th of June, where the voting is supposed to take place, for which people went to the streets and protested, for which they want to go and protest again today and have been doing it around the country? I have to ask then, what hope then does there lie for Kenyans? If you're already telling us we can predict the outcome already.
Members of Parliament should listen to the people. But between now and 2 p.m. that we're going to start voting, those who must change their minds in support of the people that elected them. Let them not depend on their own boss. Let them depend on the people's will. And I want to tell you that as a member of Parliament, as BABU OWINO, I am going to vote no. That one vote is going to go to Kenyans. I don't know what others are going to vote, but personally, I'm going to vote against the finance bill because I know that finance bill is not only going to affect the future of Kenyans, but also the future of my own children. So that finance bill, if I vote no, I've also helped myself. So my vote is going to be with the Kenyans. I don't know what other members of parliament, the decision they will make, that is their own decision. They will carry their own cross.
What happens after?
After, I'm planning as BABU OWINO, should it go through, then personally, first of all, I will move to court, and then I also urge Kenyans to proceed with the demonstrations until Ruto listens. These demonstrations are constitutionally allowed. They are enshrined in the constitution. Let them express their views in the streets. Because the power vests with the people. Article 1, sovereignty vests with the people. It is the people, for the people, by the people, and with the people.
What does it look like in terms of a future whereby we see that, some of the things that you've described, where essentially an economy will be throttled because of, extra taxes, imposing taxes, and then we want to say that other things then must run in the country? What does that outlook look like from your point of view, where legislation, representation and oversight definitely then again lands at your doorstep? What does it look like? And I think we need to go back to that even as we look. It's not just, there's the whole political drama. There's all the, there's all the pomp and everything that is around this whole debate and what's going to happen in parliament, who will be missing, who will not go. But the nitty gritty of the thing is that should it pass, there's certain things that will actually come into place. Paint a picture about what are some of those things, kind of like what you did. Paint a picture. What does it actually look like for us to people to understand that a little bit more?
Generally, the passage of the finance bill, as I said earlier, generally affects the economy of the state. The economy of our nation will generally turn upside down. So if I take an example of a bill that was, for example, the 2.5% on motor vehicle, that again, there must be an amendment that has to be brought to remove it because it has already been tabled.
Yes.
Yeah. So as at now, the bill is as is whole with everything. So then if you take 2.5% tax on motor vehicle, what does this mean to Kenyans? Number one, that the premiums will increase in the insurance companies. The moment premiums increases, people will opt not to go the comprehensive way because of high cost, because the disposable income is constant and the expenses have increased. So the moment you increase that, people will forgo the comprehensive insurance premiums. They will opt for the third parties, and even those third parties will also increase because of the increment in the taxation. Therefore, people will also skive it. So the moment that happens, number one, corruption will increase in Kenya because the people will want to make fake insurance. Okay, the police officers now will be very, very corrupt, and people will move around without insurance. Number two, the insurance industry will be killed. How will it be killed? Because it is a service industry that contributes 65%. Insurance, banking, education, health. The moment it contributes that, the moment the taxes are high and people are not paying premiums, which the insurance companies are depending on, it means that they will lay off workers. Okay? Because they can't meet their expenses, the expenditure. So therefore, people will lose jobs. The moment people lose jobs, and people will lose jobs at the level of even a mechanic, where now people will be putting their vehicles nyumbani. They will not want these vehicles to be repaired because they don't want to use them. And the moment they are not used, they are not having issues, there are no repairs, there are no maintenance, right? A mechanic on the ground will lose that job. The person selling spare parts for these vehicles will also lose the job. So it goes down, down, down deep to the people. The moment you increase the tax on bread, it means that a bread weighs 400 grams. One slice of bread is around 38 to 40 grams. That small bread, if you put 16% VAT on it, it means that it moves from 65 shillings to 75.4 shillings. Then that means that there will be low demand for this bread. What the government does not notice is that they think that if you increase tax, then you'll collect more money.
Right.
It means that the moment you increase taxes, you create less demand. Because let's say if 1 million people are not consuming bread, it means that the government will not receive that money, right?
Right.
So the demand is low. The moment demand is low, supply will also be low. Then the company will notice that our bread is not being bought because they are expensive. They will close down. People will still lose jobs. So it is also another way of closing down industries instead of building more industries. So these taxes that are punitive are going to make people lose jobs to the ground level. They are going to make people lose a lot. Look at the sanitary towels, my sister. We are not ashamed of ourselves as a country. We are now taking the dignity of our girls and our mothers and our women. 60% of people, of women in this country, cannot afford sanitary towels. You go to different counties, people are using leaves, people are using clothes, people are sitting on the soil. I got an opportunity to campaign during the presidential campaigns. People are hurting. And again, now on top of that, you are adding tax to 60% of people who cannot even afford this. And for even those who can afford, now it will even go down because the demand will be low. Even those industries, few industries that are manufacturing pads in Kenya, will lose the money that they require, therefore they will close down. People will still lose jobs. So even the dignity, look at diapers, even our children. So rais anadharau watoto, hataki kuwaona wakiishi, wanataka turudi kwa nappies. At the same time anadharau wale wa Kenya ambao wamebaki. At the same time is introducing taxation on furniture, and furniture, that is where we make our coffins, anadharau also the dead.
How?
So
Okay.
you are not liked while you are alive,
and even when
you are
you're
also
dead.
hated when you are dead.
Okay.
So I don't know what
So
he wants.
this is the counter question then. How would an economy, a nation, raise the money that it needs to then be able to run the economy? How would that happen?
Perfect.
How would that happen?
There was a great recession in the United States of America in the year 1929 under the President Franklin D. Roosevelt.
Yeah.
What did he do? He gave a speech and told people that the only thing to fear is fear itself. He further looked further and went back to Great Britain and got a gentleman called John Maynard Keynes, who wrote a book called The General Theory and came up with the Keynesian theory. What does the Keynesian theory states? It says that for you to spur up an economy, for you to grow an economy, put money into the pockets of the people, of the common mwananchi. The moment you put money into the pockets of common mwananchi, what will happen? That mwananchi will go to a shopkeeper. I want to break it down so that Kenyans can easily understand it. That mwananchi will go to a shopkeeper and buy flour, buy unga or sugar. If many of wananchis go and buy sugar or unga, that shopkeeper will see that the demand is high, right?
Right.
The moment the demand is high, the shopkeeper will employ more people to help him sell,
To increase,
right?
yes.
At the same time, we'll communicate to the industry that the demand is high, I need more supplies, right? So when the demand is going high, the supply will go up also. Now at the industry, they will manufacture more, right? Because the demand is high on the ground. As they manufacture more, right? As they manufacture more, they will employ more people to help them in the manufacturing. That is creating more jobs. At the same time, at the industry, they will communicate to the farmer and say, we want more raw materials. Even the farmer on the ground will employ more people and produce more.
And so that's
right?
how it is spurred. Yeah.
It is as easy as that.
This
Just
is what
put
is taught. It's
spur
taught.
up.
It's taught to students of economics in university, those who study relations of nations and things like this.
Perfect.
So my question is, this happens also at Treasury that sits here. It happens. They're advisors. They're experts. They do this. And where is the demand for even that information to come through? Why would it, for something that seems so obvious, right, not come from the experts that design such bills, right? And we wait, or rather go the taxation way as opposed to the spurring of the economy way? And why are these questions not asked? Because it seems like it's something that is so obvious.
Because Kenya is captured.
Oh,
Kenya
come on.
Is
Is that the reason that we continue to give and say there's capturing from the West, Babu, there's capturing in Parliament, everybody's captured. So what? Leave
even Parliament out of this. When that decision is being made, it is bigger than Parliament. This boils down to what I will not go deep into, to IMF and World Bank. Okay? It boils down to IMF and World Bank. Their policies made the ex-president, the former president Daniel Moi, be very unpopular. The same policies are being implemented by President Ruto. And if I go deeper into it, I shall be stepping on so many toes. And that is why we cannot want to spur up the economic growth, because Kenya must not grow. The simplest way to grow Kenya.
What reason would a president have to sabotage or anybody to sabotage his own economy at the behest of international institutions?
To please the international institutions.
To the disadvantage of millions of Kenyans for the maintenance of power.
We know what happens in elections in Kenya, and we know the promises that are given. We know during any presidential election what happens. You must be a stooge for you to sit there, and you must sing their tune. I just don't want to go deep into it, but I know so much about it. And therefore, let me ask you a question. If you are a reasoning president, which I know Ruto is reasoning, why don't you, the loans that you take, build industries, promote agriculture, promote the service industry, bring development, build roads, build more infrastructure?
These are questions that you are supposed to be putting to them, is it not?
I'm putting the questions to him. The moment you do that, the moment you build industries, let's say that there are 2 industries in every county in this country. What will happen? More Kenyans will get jobs. More Kenyans will earn. Kenyans will pay taxes. Government will raise revenue. As simple as that. As simple as that.
Mheshimiwa,
yes.
There are African countries where presidents or countries have actually resisted this push from these international lenders, Egypt being one such country. Within this particular country, Kibaki encountered similar push. He did not succumb. He went east. He took us there.
Yes.
I'm simply saying that everything you said is absolutely true, and it's not difficult to understand. Even the power that you speak of, that politicians and people who aspire to be political leaders seek, it's easy to understand. But let me ask you a political question, all right? You are in the opposition.
Yes.
Yeah? We now have a situation where we have young people who, from our reading of it, have mobilized themselves. They have not engaged the political leaders. In fact, if I'm to go by the clips that I heard, they're simply saying, look, we now understand what you guys were doing, but we can
handle this.
Yes. Well, so they say and so they think, okay? And it is good that they're thinking that way, and it's good that they're saying it. My question is, are they raining on the opposition's parade, or are they following a script that the opposition has written, or does the opposition have a hand in what is happening?
What I can say is that this is a collective responsibility. We are all Kenyans. If you see something is not working and you can fix it, come out and fix it. That is what I believe. If you see that your leaders are failing you and you can do it better than that leader, come out and do it. And that is what they came out and did it, because they've noticed that, these leaders are making us more hopeless. They are not delivering what they promised. They are not helping us. Therefore, let us go on the streets and let us get that which we want. And for me, that is a plus, because it is a collective responsibility. If BABU alone cannot do it, we have to come back. We have to all unite. When we were fighting for independence of this country, people had to unite to fight against the colonial powers. So we must come together. So for me, what I would answer is that it is a collective responsibility. If you see something is messing up, correct it. And they are doing it. And with the like-minded leaders, like myself, we will join them. We are with them. We are part of them. Because they are our brothers and our sisters. And we know what they are going through.
How will voting take place in Parliament today?
If I can predict, is that Azimio will vote no, save for a few Azimio members who have who has jumped the ship to be on the other side. But Kenya Kwanza will vote yes. As things are, based on the debates that were going on yesterday and that are currently going on now in the morning. So it is just as clear as that.
You don't see a situation where people who support the executive would vote against this bill?
I don't see a situation because those people are fearing so much, and you talk to
What's
members
the
of
fear of?
parliament.
What exactly could happen to
And
you?
that is why,
What's
and
the
that is
fear?
why
I think I
I'm
need to
worried about,
understand
because
that.
you are a leader who was elected by the people, your
yeah.
power comes from the people. Then all of a sudden, so many of them have confided in me, telling me, Babu, you know what? As we are just scared of our positions, they are fearing.
But they're members of parliament.
But they're members of parliament that have been voted by the
Exactly.
people, like you say.
They're not
They cannot be
government
fired
employees.
because they were not
That's why
appointed.
they are useless members of parliament. Because they should make a decision to stick with the people. Because that fear alone, why are you fearing? Because either way, will Ruto kill you?
Well, I guess maybe they feel that they owe the position they have to him and his party.
No, the position is owed to the people. It is the people who elected. There are certain situations where people were given tickets but failed. So it means that the power belongs. It is the people who elect. Right.
The people gave them that seat.
The mandate, yes.
Yes.
Is there hope that the people of Kenya can have in a parliament that's still going to be here for the next 2.5 years or so, whereby we see things happening in this manner and things that affect everybody then are folding in this way?
Nothing is lost. There is still hope because politics is fluid. It's fluidal in nature. It changes. A lot can still happen. The other day you could see the decoy again between the fight between the deputy president and the president. You could hear some MPs from this side fighting the other side, in-house wars, sibling rivalries. I can tell you that even towards 2022 elections, there were shifts in camps, right? And some decisions were made right, some decisions were made wrong in parliament. So I can tell you that there's hope because a lot can still happen in politics. People can shift camps and people can start reasoning and join those who reason, the voice of reason like us.
All right. Well, thank you for being here this morning. BABU Owino, Member of Parliament, Embakasi East. Good luck at 2 p.m. Let's see what happens as we go through the day. Thank you once again for being part of
bless you.
Kenya's biggest conversation. Asante.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.